What is up, you guys? I'm Charmx. Today I'm gonna be reacting to Game Theory: Does Fortnite Make You Violent? Fortnite Battle Royale by the Game Theorist. I don't know why the Game Theorist is doing another video about Fortnite, specifically if it makes you violent, because that's like saying, do all video games make you violent? No. Anyway, with that being said, hopefully this is gonna be interesting. I believe in the first Fortnite video, MatPat actually went after Rice Gum in the beginning for some reason, and it actually did get a little bit of drama, because I remember Drama Alert, talking about it. I don't know. Anyway, with that being said, the original link's in the description. Make sure you guys go subscribe to the Game Theorist. Without any further ado, let's begin.
Sup fam, it's your boy, back for another round of Fortnite videos. Today we're gonna mix things up a bit. It's the...
Really? Really? Again? So look, he's... He's taking more shots at Rice Gum again. Matt, are you addicted? Are you addicted to the drama now, Matt? Is that what's happening? Is that what's happening, Matt?
Liquor Strip Challenge! For every kill, I get to choose whether our guest removes one piece of clothing or I can lick them. No joke, this is a real thing. Seriously, it's a real thing. Brittany is our guest today.
Is it a real thing? The lick? Really?
Hey, who are you? Yeah, Brittany couldn't make it, so I'm your guest. Name's Dave. Okay, let's do this. Today's guest is Sweaty Dave. Don't expect too many kills today, guys. Don't run into the grenade, you idiot. Fine, take off the damn hat. Noob, all you had to do was shoot me. Shoot me. Shoe. Darn it. Other shoe. Why aren't you wearing any socks? Keeps my feet cool. I tend to get a bit hot. Shut up, Sweaty Dave. Why is everyone so bad today? Liquor strip. Shirt, I guess. Oh, thank goodness, it was getting hot in here. Oh.
Yep, probably can't show that with YouTube nowadays.
Oh! Last choice, cause let me tell you, if I don't wear socks, I bet you can guess what else I don't wear. No, please lick then.
That's a definitely weird intro. That is a weird intro.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, a show that, as always, couldn't exist without you. And with regards to today's episode, that's especially true, as an astounding 330,000 of you who saw my last video on Fortnite helped to make this theory a reality by taking our poll about gaming habits and your personality type. Guys, that
330,000 people did your polling thing? Wow.
Kind of support is overwhelming. Most scientific papers that I read for this series have like 1,000 people participating if they're lucky and if they're paid. So thank you. Seriously, thank you so much. And without even having to crunch the numbers, there were some findings that I think that science will be very interested to explore further. Like the fact that apparently there are over 600 different genders. You know, I've always taken pride knowing that we have a diverse audience watching, but I never in my wild...
Oh, this is what the people who did the poll. So there were 600 different genders specified or whatever.
This dreams imagined it was so diverse to include people who self-identify as everything from a 1960s era Coca-Cola bottle to a weaponized battle toaster.
Oh my goodness. So people were trolling Matt. Wait, so all of these are different different genders that were written down? WTF does other mean? Whoa, man. War helicopter. So people are just trolling Matt, it seems.
I've heard that gender is a spectrum and all that, but can someone explain to me whether gay jalapeno is to the left or right of literal piece of human fecal matter? Oh, and by the way, to the 1,610 of you who responded with Apache attack helicopter, thank you so much for raising awareness for the oft overlooked telesexuals. Also to all of you who say that this show is for...
Was that Yoda doing a helicopter? No, I'm gonna leave it alone.
Kids, I think we finally have our conclusive evidence that that simply isn't the case. The average age of respondents to this survey was 2 quadrillion years old. Apparently, theorists just have really good genes. And to the 242 of you who responded with 69 lol, good one. You got me. So clearly there was some data.
See, Matt, this is why you have to pay people to get honest answers.
That needed to be cleaned up, but with 330,000 responses in total, even throwing out a few thousand left me with hundreds of thousands of data points. So the real average age of survey takers was 17, and the male-female split was 80-20. The goal of this whole experiment was to explore the major differences between the players of 2 different, yet very similar and very popular Battle Royale-style games. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, PUBG for short, and Fortnite. Secondly, I wanted to examine whether aggressiveness or violent video games increased aggression in their players in the wake of news stories like this.
Now the latest video game craze is Fortnite. It's free, addictive, violent, and kids love it.
And this.
Possible crackdown on violence in video games. President Trump meeting with top executives from the gaming industry.
And I gotta say, after crunching the numbers, it's gonna be pretty hard to make video games a scapegoat ever again. So I hope you're listening, media and scientific community.
Okay, I'm glad. So right there we have the answer. Right there we have the answer. Basically, they do not make you violent, because right here it said, you know, it's gonna be hard to make video games a scapegoat, which, if you don't know what a scapegoat is, it's basically something you blame for your problems, basically.
I mean, let's face it, I know they're not, but you know what? You are. And arming yourself with knowledge to use in your next Twitter rant aimed at the Wall Street Journal is all that truly matters. Firstly, are PUBG players significantly different from Fortnite players? Well, statistically, no, not a whole lot. In the survey, I asked gamers to break down whether they had or were currently playing either Fortnite, PUBG, both, or neither. And when comparing the gamers who were only playing Fortnite with the ones who were only playing PUBG, there wasn't a whole lot of difference. PUBG players were slightly older, 17.5 versus 16, and were much more heavily skewed toward the PC master race, with 63% preferring PC versus 44% of Fortniters. And honestly, that shouldn't be all that surprising, right? Fortnite is more widely released on console and didn't start its early days on PC only.
Really? When I was playing it, it was on PC. I'd never played Fortnite on console. Actually, I haven't played console of anything in a good couple years.
So those were the minor differences, but in the important areas like playstyle, social behavior, and personality type, the two were practically identical. They even agreed on their stance in the classic internet debate of fighting one horse-sized duck versus 100 duck-sized horses. 55% of Fortniters and 55% of PUBGers agreed fighting a horse-sized duck wins. And can I just...
Fighting a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? I don't know who would win. That's a good question. I've never even thought of that before. I did not do the quiz. I mean, ducks don't have teeth, right? So, I mean, even if they were to bite you, it's not like it's gonna hurt that much. So even if there was a horse the size of a duck, its bite would still be more painful, most likely more painful than a duck that's the size of a horse. So having 100 horses versus one duck, they could easily gang up. It's like having a spider versus a bunch of ants. Surprisingly, the ants will actually win because they just gang up and like rip the spider to pieces. So I think actually the horses would win. I'm in the minority on that one.
Just be honest here, how is this still a question online? I feel like at this point the one horse-sized duck answer is the clear winner. Now what I want to see to...
Why is it the clear winner? Matt, we need a theorist video over this. Why is it the winner? I mean, the horses have actual teeth, and horses, you know, they could gang up. They could gang up against this big duck, and ducks aren't really that violent.
Debated is whether you'd want to fight a tiger-sized hedgehog or 100 hedgehog-sized tigers.
Tigers win. Tigers win. Even if they're that little, if they still have the temperament of a tiger and the teeth, they could easily take on a hedgehog, because hedgehogs are adorable, but they're... I don't know, because if it rolls up into a ball, then maybe I don't know. Now that's the real question here.
Now that is a battle that feels a bit more balanced to me. Go ahead, start debating it now in the comments. Go ahead, we got a lot of data to get through. But here's where things got interesting. While there wasn't much of a difference between people who had played either PUBG or Fortnite, there was a significant difference between people who had played both games versus those who had only played one. Let's call them the hardcore battle royalers versus the more casual battlers. And what's more, the group who hadn't played any battle royale style game also showed significantly different results from the other two categories. So from here on out, I'll be comparing the Battle Royalers group, consisting of those who actively played both games, against the Pub-Nighters, those who've only played one of those games, to the group of people who hadn't played either, a category I'm gonna call the iDubber, which obviously stands for I Don't Usually Battle Royale. That Z you see is silent, and any similarity to known and popular YouTuber names is purely coincidental, I assure you. Now, to give some context, the iDubbers were on average slightly older, 18, and the Battle Royalers were closer to Fortnite age, 16.5. In total, of those 300.
I like how you have the content cop music in the background there. That's a nice little touch, man.
130,000 responses, about 150,000 were a Pub-Nighter, 130,000 were an iDubber, and the other 50,000 were Battle Royalers. And there were a few things all three groups agreed on, like how they're all slightly better than average at playing video games. When asked to rate their skills as a gamer, 68% of responses, regardless of category, rated themselves at either a 7 or an 8. Only one or two truly brave souls rated themselves as a 1. To those people I say thank you. You are the true American hero. Everyone also tended to agree that consistently good play was better than winning just once. In general, that was a 70-30 split. But then I turned to analyze aggressiveness and risk-taking behavior. If battle royale games are truly making players more violent, then it stands to reason that gamers would report that their playstyle is more aggressive in those games. Furthermore, we would expect to see that gamers who play non-shooter games would yield lower aggressiveness scores, and that those who had played multiple shooter games would have the highest scores of them all. And wouldn't you know it, but that's exactly what the data showed. When asked about risk-taking behavior and
So people who play violent video games are more violent? Is that what it means? Because that's not good for me then, because my Steam library is full of violent games.
aggressiveness of tactics in-game, the Battle Royalers were the highest, showing an average rating of 7.3 out of 10. The Pub-Nighters, who only played one game, were slightly lower at just 7, and the iDubbers were least aggressive and most risk-averse, with a score of 6.5.
That's not really that much of a difference, though. I mean, it's a little bit, sure, but not by much. I thought the iDubbers were gonna be like 1 or 2, but 6.5. It's not that much of a difference.
Behavior followed a similar pattern, 7.3, 7, and 6.6. To further explore the topic, I also asked about pacifist routes in games, and whether, given the option, the player would choose to take the peaceful, non-aggressive route, or just solve the problem by running in guns blazing. Plus, since I recognize that most pacifist routes in games, let's be honest, suck, I included an option of, no, I wouldn't choose it because it's a mechanic that's usually poorly implemented, to ensure that people weren't avoiding non-violent playstyles because no one but Undertale can figure out how to make a complete game without killing things. Anyway, the results were shocking. A whopping 48% of iDubbers would choose pacifism when offered, compared to only 29% of Battle Royalers. And as we would expect, Pub-Nighters were smack in the middle at 32%. So it would seem like the data is telling us that Fortnite and PUBG are in fact prompting more aggressive strategies and higher amounts of risk-taking. But before you
Yeah, okay.
run off and
I was gonna say that's a bad place to pause, but I guess it kind of makes sense though, right? Because if you're playing a violent video game, it's obviously because you want it to be violent. So why would you take a peaceful route if you're playing it for the violence? Yeah, it doesn't make sense that you would be more peaceful.
misquote me, Good Morning America, hold up. Correlation doesn't mean causation. Just because aggressive play lines up with a certain genre of game, there are any number of variables to account for that. Maybe it's not the game causing the aggression, but rather the gamer's personality being being more prone to aggressive play styles. And that's where the personality test comes in. I asked all respondents to take a Myers-Briggs-esque personality assessment, which breaks down your personality into 16 key types based on 4 different categories. Now, I go into much more detail in this in a past theory that you can watch right here, but to briefly summarize, the breakdown goes roughly like this. Are you quiet and introverted, or do you like being extroverted and talking with people?
I'm introverted, I guess. Like, yeah, well, I mean, I don't leave the house, so I guess that's introverted. Okay.
Are you intuitive and focused on imagination and ideas, or observant and focused on the actual world and real-life events around you? When making decisions, are you a thinker and use logic, or a feeler who considers the emotions of others? And lastly, how do you run your life? Are you structured and scheduled, or open and flexible? That's judging versus prospecting, J versus P. Neither word really makes sense there. I honestly just think they ran out of letters. Anyway, my logic was this. Games don't necessarily make people more aggressive, but certain personality types may be more drawn to these sorts of games.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. If you're playing a violent video game, it doesn't obviously make you violent. It's because that's your personality, so you want to play those kind of games, right? There we go. That makes sense. That makes sense.
We would expect to see some personalities show up more or over-index for playing Battle Royale games if this is indeed true. And immediately in the data, one point stood out. The Royalers were just more extroverted overall, by about 14% relative to the iDubber category. So seeing that, I really started to crunch some numbers. And if I could just take a minute for a PSA right now. Teachers, I'm MatPat, online personality and all-around nerd, and I have one thing to say to you.
I do not have a neck.
Screw PowerPoint presentations and introduce your students to Excel. Anyone can drag and drop a stupid star wipe. Learning how to master a pivot table, on the other hand, is like a nerd's greatest superpower. It allows you to totally teabag data. So teach your students some useful life skills. And remember, knowledge is power. The more you know. So to eliminate the variable of the games, I crossed the 8 different personality traits measured by the test against aggression and risk-taking responses. And it turns out my hypothesis was right. Introverts, on average, reported their levels of aggression to be 5.7. Extroverts, on the other hand, rated themselves at nearly 6.5 on average.
See, that's weird. That's weird, because I'm an introvert, but also I'm an angry introvert. Like, I get angry pretty fast. So I don't know where I would fit there, because I'm not an extrovert, really, right? So I don't know. I guess I'm in an odd situation here, I guess, compared to most people.
Thinkers also rated their playstyle as more aggressive relative to feelers, 6.3 compared to 5.7. And wouldn't you know it, but a combination of the two traits, extroverted thinkers produce the most aggressive players by far. You actually see the scale go up. Introverted feelers are at the super low 5.5, introverted thinkers and extroverted feelers jump up to 6.2. Again, remember that both of these only have one of the more aggressive personality trait types. And finally, extroverted thinkers, the double whammy, are at the highest levels of aggressive play at 6.8. A similar trend is visible in the risky strategy category. Meanwhile, the other personality traits, intuiting versus...
So yeah, I think the easy conclusion here is that, you know, the video games don't make you violent. It's your personality that draws you to certain video games, or to violent video games.
Observing and judging versus prospecting showed no difference. Fascinating, right? But if you actually stop and think about what these traits mean, it starts to make sense. An aggressive strategy is going to require you to get up in people's faces, be forceful and assertive, all things that are much easier for an extrovert to do, even in a virtual world. It also means that you're going to have to make enemies by directly confronting them, something that a feeler, who's going to be more sensitive to the emotions of others, is going to want to avoid. So when I went a layer deeper and divided up extroverted gamers who play Battle Royale games versus introverted Battle Royalers, the trend still held. Extroverted Battle Royalers were more aggressive relative to their introverted counterparts. Same with Battle Royale thinkers versus feelers. It even existed in the iDubber category. No one is questioning whether playing Mario games is getting people to take more risks, and yet there you were. People who played platformers with the E and T traits were just more likely to rate themselves as being more aggressive. So the long story short, it's not the game making people aggressive or teaching them bad behavior. Players with personalities that are more comfortable taking risks and getting aggressive are just more drawn to these sorts of high action, high intensity games. So
you see, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
already I've given strong evidence to that initial point that I wanted to prove, that battle royale games aren't the rage virus that mainstream media outlets want to make them. But obviously, there's another component to all this, the social component. Could games not only be not detrimental to gamers, but rather beneficial? Could playing Fortnite and PUBG actually help gamers get good socially? That is what I set out to find next, and the results of which I'll be sharing with you in just a few days.
I think playing any game which you know, deals with a lot of people and a lot of like social kind of content, like, you know, oh my goodness, what's the game called? CS:GO. That's a real social game where you can talk to people on that. I mean, it's real social. I think that kind of game, or like, you know, that VR game which is free and it's, you know, it's created that stupid Ugandan Knuckles meme. See, that's a real social game as well. I think a lot of games like that can help people who are bad socially because you're not actually talking to someone face to face. You know, you're just doing it over the phone, or not the phone, but in this case, you know, just online. I think, you know, it really, you know, can help people who have who are really introverted, I guess. Anyway, I hope you guys like this video. This is quite educational, and yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. You know, like video games don't make you violent. It's your personality that determines what video games you play. And if you're an angry, aggressive person, you're gonna play more angry and aggressive video games. Like, it just, you know, it correlates, I guess. But anyway, with that being said, if you like this, give it a thumbs up, possibly share with a friend if you're new, and subscribe to join the family. Also, make sure you guys go subscribe to the Game Theorist. So with that being said, I'll see you guys next time.